Alright. Video the second. In this video, I'm going to go over back dragons. All of the back dragons except for these two, because I don't want to touch these two. I'll get to those another time. Yeah. So, back dragons. Unlike before, you want to go there and pull over and up. Whee! Important notes here, I recently discovered about optimal purling. So you can use your F3 menu, specifically this number here tells you the angle, the height angle that you're looking at. Sorry, like the sort of Y angle of you're looking at that you're looking at. So as you raise up and down, you can see it increases and decreases. For optimal purling, if you're looking at around -27, and then you sprint jump forward, and as soon as you sprint jump, you purl, that gives you the fastest possible purl. So that's the best ratio of distance to distance and speed of the purl travel. And then if you go up to, remembering numbers moment, I think it's 31, that gives you the best distance on your purl, which is maybe useful for sometimes. But -27 is the ideal thing to look for. And you can just eyeball it without the F3 screen, but if you think it might be helpful, you can keep F3 open. As this first purl goes, you line yourself up with -27, and then you can just go. And ideally, you get that first purl as far over as possible, so you're not hidden behind this tower when you want to lob a purl that way. Okay, now that I've over-explained that, let's talk about the setup. So, all the way from small boy up to T94, the numbers that you're going to work basically the same way, with some amendments. Given that you have less time on a back dragon, I recommend that you use lower numbers and rely a bit more on luck of the dragon not flying away. You can say no if you're better than me and faster. So the heights work the same, but with a back dragon, the dragon actually circles above a different block, like a different point in relation to the tower than it does on the front dragon. So you can't just build your setup in the same way, otherwise the dragon will be slightly offset. I mean, obviously offset dragons, you can make them work, but you'd rather not. So I've come up with a simple system on every back dragon that seems to work very well, and seems to be the fastest way to do it. So on any back dragon, I purl up to the tower, and I'm going to this middle block here. So, once you're here, aim for that middle block clutch somewhere here. If you land over here, then just as you're building up, just jump over and keep building up. Take note of the height of the tower, so you know what tower it is. This is the M91. And just keep building. Just keep building up on this block, up until you reach your height. And I'll go over, the optimal heights in a moment. Once you reach the height that you want, then instead of, so with the other tower, you're over here, you're building out. This would be what you're doing on a front dragon. You get to your height, then you build out, then you build out this way and do your thing. Oops. On this one, you just build straight up, and then you turn this way. So there you are in relation to End Island. You pull over here, and you're building out to the left, and you build your setup that way. And that to me seems the simplest way to do it. So yeah, it's just that. One thing that's important to note is on the T94. On this one, I recommend going to a Y height of 99 for this, because I don't think it's reasonable to go any higher than that. However, when you're going to 99, I naturally want to build the setup out this way with the respawn anchors on this side. But if you're using respawn anchors, as soon as you blow that one up, as you can see, it blows up the crystal. Not a problem on the front dragon because it's further away. So what I do to deal with that is I just instead I build the setup out. I build up the setup like this, building out to this side so that the first respawn anchor is on that side, and now when you blow it up, it doesn't blow up the crystal. That one does, of course, but that's fine because it's your last explosive. You're welcome to find a different method of coping with that, but that's the thing I use. Yep. Okay, let's talk heights. So, small boy, the optimal height is 95. However, I think that there's no way that you're getting to 95 in a real run in any sort of reasonable situation. So instead, I go to Y90. And I hope and I pray that the dragon doesn't fly away. There's a fairly high chance. There it goes, flying away. I don't know what the chance actually is. It's not great, but yeah. Small and tall cage. Again, optimal height, Y95. And I would recommend going to Y95. The cages are pretty simple, really. However, you can absolutely keep Y90 as a backup. If you're being particularly slow, Y90 works. So just keep Y90 in the back of your mind if you think you're not going to make it. But there absolutely is enough time to get to Y95. M85, again, optimal height is Y95. I recommend Y95. Y90 in this case doesn't work, so Y95 is sort of your only option. However, if you get your purling right, you have more than enough time to get to Y95 with no stress. M88, optimal height, Y99. I recommend Y95. I think Y99 on a back dragon for an M88 is just unreasonably difficult. So just don't. Just go to Y95. Problem solved. M91. I hate this one for a back dragon. You're very tight on time, and you can't go to Y95 because you'd blow up the crystal with your beds. So I'm afraid to get to an optimal height, it's Y99 or bust. And as you can see, I'm out of time. It's really tough. So actually, what I do is I go for a scuffed setup instead, where I go to Y97, accepting that the dragon won't be at the optimal height to make that work. So you still have to blow up your bed on the same rotation, but in this case, you just don't have to build up an extra 2 blocks, which saves you enough time to make it a lot easier. It's still difficult, but a lot easier. And the way that you sort of deal with that properly is in how you time your bed explosions. As previously mentioned, earlier beds will generally deal slightly increased damage, and also they will allow the dragon to descend more blocks. So by finding the right balance of exploding your bed slightly earlier, you can allow the dragon to descend from an unoptimal height, a couple blocks above your bed, to right above your bed at the sort of optimal height. It takes a lot of practice, but that's what I recommend doing. Just go to Y97, do a bit of a scuffed setup, and then I've already covered this with T94. Very, very difficult. Optimal height is Y99. This is the hardest zero setup that I can reasonably do. It's not the hardest zero setup ever. Back T100 is possible. I think that's the actual hardest. But if we're talking about zeros that I, with my less refined skills, can do, this is the hardest that I can achieve. And yeah, optimal height is Y99. You cannot go any lower than that. It has to be Y99. Okay, final thing to talk about, T97. I don't have like a different setup for this one actually. There's probably a more optimal way of doing this, and in future there may be some amendments to be made. But actually, what I do is I do the exact same setup that I do for a front dragon, but with hopefully a bit more skill than that. Yeah, I'm just really slow. But yeah, it is possible, and that's the setup I use, just the same as a front dragon. I mean, on the front dragon, you're dealing with an offset dragon anyway, so it's fine. It's fine, probably. Yeah, in future I'll probably have to just make amendments to that. But yeah, those are usable setups for all of these towers, Back Dragon. Good luck out there. You got this, speedrunner.